What will happen when two parallel universes start merging due to a dangerous experiment done in space? Now this video is the second part of the first season of the Constellation series, so if you have not seen the first part yet, then click on the link below description and the button above. You will get it. Now let us move forward with the story here. The same woman who had set out to find out the truth with her daughter Alice has also stolen the Cal device while leaving Henry's lab so that she can find out what happened during the experiment on the space station that day. The same Henry talks to Ari. Now shows the same newspaper article in which he had found that only one particles that exist in different universes can affect each other, that is, different versions of different universes can affect each other's life. Of course, if that effect is very small, then after some time. When Henry reaches his lab, he learns that Jo has stolen his Cal. The device has been stolen and she has run away, so he quickly calls the police and asks them to find her, while Jo is still roaming with Alice and she calls the couple who sent the tape records and gets their address while eating. Alice also tells him how much Jo has changed and that before going into space here she further says that she has started seeing another version of herself many times. Here Jo knew that Alice was not lying and she now takes Alice to the same observatory where the couple tells that they very much have been doing research on space for a long time and found that this has happened before and people who when they return to Earth after spending some time on the space station, their behavior has often changed, that is, while Jo is not the first person to do so. He gives all the recordings to Jo which he had recorded from the space station, whereas Alice is now hiding. She calls her father Magnus and tells him her location. He tells her that his mother will take him to her old lake house and here Jo starts going to the same deserted cabin with the tape records and the Cal device to do research on all this, and it was on that night that we start the story. Here Alice turns on the tape of a space mission that took place in 1967 inches which there was the voice of an astronaut named Valia and she recognizes from LC that she has heard this voice somewhere. After reaching home, she starts playing her recordings where she was talking to Alice, but after hearing these things, Alice she says that she does not know all these things because she does not know Swedish language. She had talked to her about something else and now from here, what happened in the real universe on the same day when she reached this parallel universe is now being shown where here too Jo is talking to her daughter on video call. So the same Paul was experimenting on the same Cal device and this time when the device was launched as soon as there was a big explosion at the station, both Paul and Jo switched to each other's parallel universe and here Jo was killed as soon as they arrived, whereas in this universe, Paul survived, although this Polly is not from this universe as if what was left alive in their universe, which was from the original universe. Here Paul tells down at the base that astronaut Jo was killed along with him, which is why this universe's Alice and Jo's husband Magnus were both very sad because here's Jo had no affair with his boss and they all were in love with each other. They loved Jo very much, although they did not yet know that Jo's dead body was still there. The one who is present on the space station is not from their universe but from another universe and the one who is their real one is still alive in the other parallel universe. While on the space station, Paul sent the remaining 3 crew members down in a shuttle and is now alone. Stopped at the same station to repair the second ski port and return. He too had only a few hours of oxygen left. The same situation happened with Jo in the other universe, but in this universe, all this was happening with Paul and gradually Paul also realized. It seems as if there is someone else in his ship besides him, but here there is only dead Jo. The body was there and now after holding her hand, Paul sees Jo again as if he was alive and this was the same incident that had happened with Jo in the other universe, that is, he had no illusion then and then the two realities were merging with each other but only for a short time they were able to see each other's reality. Here police goes to the builder and starts tying the body in a room and launching its port below, but this time also there was an error in launching the shuttle and someone went out of the shuttle to the control room and started launching it manually. Had to give that means again the pole alone cannot do all this and here also the same thing happens in the control room. A shadow comes and manually launches Pole's shuttle, where the same incident happens in both the universes. Now who is it who saved both of them in different universes? We will know further. Here, Pole lands on Earth this time. Although he was feeling very bad that because of his experiment he was in space when Jo was killed, he goes to offer flowers to Jo's grave where he also sees Jo alive and this was the same incident that happened with Jo in the other universe and then he saw Pole alive, i.e. then he too He had no illusions. In fact, since both of them had switched to each other's universe, reality's C-fact was happening, and after some time they were able to see their other reality. Here Paul is also able to see that in the other reality there is a garland hanging on his photo, i.e. if he is killed then he also starts seeing that here. That his circumstances and his family members have all changed a little, and he also finds that here, the CAL device project itself had been closed 12 years ago, but Paul remembered very well that Henry himself had asked him to do that experiment, and everyone in NASA knew about it, that they were working on the CAL device. But they are experimenting on dark matter from there. Because of the death of their mother, Alice of the universe, she was very sad and started remembering those days when she used to learn Swedish language with her mother, but now she starts realizing that her mother B is also alive somewhere, while Paul was constantly finding that the events of this universe here are such that he remembers them in a completely different way than his universe the Apollo 18 mission was successfully completed in 1957, but in this universe, that mission failed and only one astronaut named Bud survived, where the remaining 2 astronauts were killed. Not only this, the name of Paul's wife also changed in this universe. That is, in the other universe, which was correct then because it was in this one here's universes. Paul goes with his family to Joe's house for his memorial service, where everyone is gathered to celebrate Joe's death, but Joe's daughter Alice tells her father that she is sure that her mother will also she did not die and somewhere she is still alive, and here she is again, Alice in another reality, and her mother appears, but only for a short time, while Magnus feels that Alice is saddened by her mother's death, so he decides to take a few days of rest and take his daughter to his old lake house, so that Alice can get some peace there for a few days, while Paul goes to meet Henry at his house, and he says that he had experimented with Caldiva on his request. But why is everyone here saying that NASA had stopped that project 12 years ago? Now on hearing this, Henry gets angry at Paul and says that but his name is bad and he doesn't know any Henry. Actually there is some Henry in this universe, no, and this was Bird, who was the only surviving astronaut on the Apollo 18 mission, whereas at the lake house now both the realities were going to clash because both Alices are present there, and from here the events from which we started the story. They start clearing where Joe is with Alice and Cal's device. She has just arrived at her old lake house where Alice and Joe start listening to old tape records and realize that they both are from different universities because this Alice has never learned Swedish, and now Joe tells Alice to sleep. Cal had just come outside to collect the device when both realities clashed with each other. It starts happening and Joe starts coming to Alice from the other direction, where after walking for some time he finally finds another cube similar to his universe where his real daughter Alice was, and she also says that everyone else was saying that Joe she was killed, but she was sure that her mother and baby were alive. Since it was very cold here, she runs and brings her daughter to her home and runs hot water and starts bathing her. While she had just gone to check the power supply, she sees the Alice of this universe who was still sleeping. That is, there are 2 Alices here, and when Joe runs to see Alice in panic, it turns out that both realities had become separate. Where Joe Alice bathed now, her father Magnet asks her why she is bathing so late in the night. Alice says that she met her mother and she was the one who bathed her. However, Magnus explains to her again that if Joe was killed in space, how can she be alive, and he starts putting her to sleep while she is in another universe. Joe now tells Alice that he understands everything, that she is not his real daughter Alice, but his real daughter Alice in another reality, but that they can still find her, and from here Joe gets Alice dressed in Cal device. Together, she sets out again to find the house in the other reality because she has it was hoped that if she could cross reality earlier, then why not now? At the same time, Magnus, Frederick, and Henry, along with the 3 policemen, were coming to this same lake house so that they could catch Joe because Joe had managed to knock Menace unconscious and Henry. When she stole the phone device and ran away, everyone felt that her mental condition was not good. However, a lot of snow had fallen on the way, so their path was blocked, and by the time the path was cleared, they were all trapped. In the parallel universe, Alice now wakes up again after some time, and she knew that her mother who was with her. If he is in some cabin, he will leave his father Benest sleeping there and now go to his home. She runs out of the house and starts looking for that other house. Also in the other universe, when Joe and Alice are looking for another cabin, Alice says that she can no longer live with them because she is not her real mother, and she starts running back where Joe was chasing her, and both of them are running away from here. The Alices of the universe go to the same house and hide in the same cupboard but in different realities, and from here they find that despite being in different realities, both the Alices can now talk to each other through a mirror. Alice's father Magnus was searching outside to find out where Alice had suddenly gone and the other in reality. Joe was also searching for them, and meanwhile, a lamp falls from the air in the cabin of now Joe's universe, which had started catching fire there, and seeing the same fire in her car, she quickly runs towards home. Because he knew that Alice could be there, both Alice now finally talk to each other. It is understood that Joe is actually the real mother of the second Alice, where she was told that Joe was killed in space because there is a red car instead of a blue one. Joe has taught Alice the Swedish language, and she pays a lot of attention to her family. As far as anyone who had come to the house from outside, but when she jumps into the burning house she finds that there is no fire inside, which means that realities are clashing again, and she quickly goes to Capote and finally realizes that here both the Alices are contacting each other and all three are cleared from here. It had happened that the other one is Alice's mother, but she is trapped in this parallel universe from where she also does not know how to go back to her real universe, whereas real Alice tells that she was told here that her mother who was killed in space, and from here both of them understand that she is the one who died in this universe. It was here that she also promises her Ellie that she will find some way, by whatever means she will find him, so that she can come to him in her real universe, while she also tells Alice of this universe that she too is not her real mother, but she will not leave her alone. Now while they were talking, they realized that the fire in the house has now increased a lot, so Joe tells them to get out of here, and she somehow gets sad and leaves the house with Alice of this universe, but little Alice had become unconscious due to her mother-in-law's knee, while by now all three, Henry, Magnus and Frederick, had reached here with the police, who till now had been arrested. It seemed that Joe Chucky, who was mentally ill, might have set the house on fire, and Joe is captured by the police, while Magnus and Henry quickly get little Alice admitted to the hospital with their CAL device, while in the other universe, Alice tells her father Magnus everything about how they have been told that her mother she was killed in space and actually did not belong to their reality. His real mother will soon try to find a way to come to his universe, and with this cliffhanger, only the last episode of this series is left, which will be released on March 27th, so as soon as it is released, I will watch this last episode too. I will explain, so subscribe the channel now for the upcoming updates. Please tell us in the comments how you like the part and the mystery of the series. Thank you.